So, did anybody else catch the the whole thing? Speaking of the far left not hiding anything, did anybody catch Maxine Waters' 4th of July post? Because it's a good one. It's crazy, but it's a good one. So, Rep. Maxine Waters. She decided to take a dig at the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July. So I'm going to read this here for you. It says in a tweet, the California Congresswoman said, the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal. Equal to what? What man? A white man? Isn't it something that they wrote this in 1776 when African Americans were enslaved? They weren't thinking about us then, but they're thinking about us now. Waters went on to post that while the Declaration of Independence claims that that it is self-evident that all men are created equal, America does not have equality. Well, I'm going to go ahead and touch on this and continue to touch on this because, like I said, this podcast tonight is about the attack on America, the disrespect to America, because that's what they're doing, folks. It's a disrespect for America. And I'm not trying to bring just the negative, because the 4th of July is supposed to be a positive, the celebration of our country and its founding. But I have to bring all of this up because, again, this is the only country where the people that hate it, the individuals like Maxine Waters here that hate this country, won't leave. This is the only country that I know that if you hate this country, for some reason the people that hate it, they won't leave. So, speaking of Maxine Waters, because I you know that everyone that listens to me knows that I love history. So, Miss Waters, you want to talk about 1776, excuse me, and a bunch of white men who founded this country didn't think about different ethnic groups, didn't think about, the future of this country at all, and what they were setting up. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Maxine, there were slaves at the starting of this country. This country, and our founders know this, this country was built by our founders and the way they set it up, knowing that there was going to be bad things, and from those bad things, the seed of change and the seed of growth was going to take root and grow. Our framers knew this. And it applies to everyone, just not white guys. So I want to give you a little bit of a history lesson, Maxine Waters. I hope this podcast somehow, some way gets sent to you. I really do. So you want to go on about how the framers didn't take into consideration African Americans because they were slaves. It's just like this whole movement with, Black Lives Matters. And you hear these people go on about reparations. Or this country was stolen. There was an individual, a congresswoman here the other day who said that this country was stolen. That land from African Americans was stolen, or Native Americans was stolen. I don't know what country land hasn't been stolen from someone in the past, anytime. That's just like, you want to talk about slavery. And nobody took any of this into consideration. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson, like I said. It wasn't a white person that started the slave trades. We can go way past Jamestown. You want to talk about slavery? Well, a lot of African tribes, Miss Waters, sold their own people into the slave trade. That's how it originally got started. African tribes selling their own people to traders. That's how the slave trade started. It just didn't start in England with a bunch of white guys that came to the United States and started some colonies. You want to talk about the United States historically? You want to use the Declaration of Independence and the founders, or as you put it, bunch of white guys? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history lesson. Would you like to know who actually in the United States was the first black slave and who the owner of that slave was? Well, I'll give you a history lesson here. In 1654, John Caesar, a black indentured servant in the colony of Virginia, was the first man to be declared a slave in a civil case in the United States. He had claimed to an officer that was his master, which went by the name of Anthony Johnson, that his indentured servanthood, he didn't work very well under his indentured servanthood. So Anthony Johnson, who was his master for his indentured servitude, went to court, sued him, and the court sided with Anthony Johnson and gave Anthony Johnson John Caesar as the first slave. A black free colonist took on a black indentured servant as the first slave here in America. But you don't hear that, do you? We don't hear any about that from Maxine Waters or anybody else that goes on about, well, slavery, reparations, Whitey did this, Whitey did that, bunch of old men with this Declaration of Independence, not thinking about us. Really. The founders shaped the Declaration of Independence so that it was for everyone. Not just then, but for the future. If you look at American history as a whole, look at the Civil War, for example, folks. Abraham Lincoln was a white guy. A white guy. He took presidency at a time where the country was divided. In my opinion, even more divided than it is now. And what did he do? We had a civil war. People died. Hundreds of thousands of people died. But this country still came together. We fought and we freed slaves. Slavery was abolished. One of the best speeches, one of the best laws ever, the Emancipation Proclamation. We heard it, and it went into effect, and this country grew from it. Did it not, Miss Waters? Did it? Because it did. And from there, it went on. We had individuals like Martin Luther King. He just didn't have his own black fellow brothers and sisters marching in the street with him. He had white people. He had people from all over this country of different ages, ethnic groups, religious standings, marching in the streets with him for equal rights. Today, and moving forward, what else happened? Voting rights. Women being able to vote. People being able to actually drive, have a driver's license, go to school together, being able to go into a restaurant and eat together. Does that sound like this country which is founded on bigotry and hate and racism? Or do we take something that was bad, like has happened in history, and we grew from that? Because we did, Miss Waters. We did. You know, everyone can sit there, especially yourself, and going about how there's racism here in America. There is racism here in America. There's racism all over the world. But the majority of the people here in the United States are good, honest, hardworking, individual people who frown on people that are racist, who frown on people that do crime and hurt one another. Most people here love our country. They love their flag. They love what this country represents because of the freedom it brings and the opportunities it brings. But then you have the individuals who, like I said, they hate this country so much, like you, Maxine Waters, because you do. You're a crabby old lady who's mad because of the simple fact you have everything that's been you could ever imagine handed to you. We know you make 6 figures, and you're still not happy. So all you want to do is cite how this country is terrible. And like I said before, this is the only country where you can hate it, and the people that hate it won't leave. You hate it so much, but yet you won't leave. You hate it so much, but yet you're a congresswoman. You represent the people, but you don't. When you spew comments like this, you mark certain people here in the United States with that foul language that you spew and the hate that you spew. You don't represent the people. You represent your own selfish needs and your own way to start problems. So this is why I'm giving you a history lesson. Maybe you should go back and actually read about our national history. You say you represent this country, Miss Waters, so please, maybe you should bone up on American history. And not something that they make up in a textbook out there in California. And that's all I'm going to say on Maxine Waters. The last bit of information I'm going to talk about, I found this actually quite interesting, was still getting into the whole thing with the attack over the 4th of July weekend here. This came out today. It was on Fox News. It made a couple other outlets. How many people here, and I'm sure there's tons of people, like Disney's Marvel movies, the comic books? You know, I wear some shirts once in a while. Me and the wife and the kids was out here last weekend, and I always get stopped by people saying, man, I love that Marvel shirt. My wife got me this shirt that says Rad Dad, and the wording, it's got all the Marvel characters and things in it. So Dean Cain posted a rant. It says, Dean Cain slams Marvel for new woke Captain America comic. Bashing USA is now a cool thing to do. And the new comics, they basically take Captain America and they basically say what he stands for, freedom, the American dream. Well, now they say that the American dream is the one thing that isn't real. So Marvel is now taking Captain America, just like they've done here recently with with the American flag, and we're bashing it too. If you don't know who Dean Cain is, he's an actor. He played Superman on the TV series Superman, or I think it was Lois and Clark. When I was a younger man, I actually watched that show from time to time. Dean Cain's been in a lot of shows on TV and movies. But as Superman, his character, he's speaking out because he basically says, Dean Cain said that this wokeism ranging through America is basically destroying the country, destroying everything that we hold dear. And he says he is tired of the anti-Americanism. It's just kind of like here, again, another very big influential person, George Foreman. You know, they were attacking him here the other day because he said he loves the country. He loves our country. He's a black man and he says he loves our country. And you've got the media attacking him because they don't understand why he says that. You don't understand why he says that. I mean, the man worked hard in his boxing career, and he was successful. He worked hard. He's been living the American dream. He loves the country. What's bad about that, folks? What don't people understand about that? What is so crazy of a concept with that? That a black man loves this country, or anybody loves this country. You don't even got to be black. It's just a ridiculous concept that you're hearing now. The attack on not just the national anthem and this country, or people that love this country, but the flag as well. That's just like people were. You had these eco crazy people here today going on about how the fireworks from the 4th of July hurt our ecosystem, and African Americans and other ethnic groups are the ones that are harmed by the smoke and the debris that's in the air that they breathe in. And this is why we shouldn't have fireworks for the 4th of July anymore. I'm not making this up, folks. I'm giving you the news. As I'm reading it, as I'm hearing it, I'm giving you the news. What's been happening in the last 24 to 48 hours. I am not making this up. It is ridiculous the amount of nonsense that is all over social media, the drive-by media, our own president. I mean, I have people ask me all the time, Mr. Nash, how do you come up with your material? Well, folks, it ain't hard. They give me this material. I mean, a 5-year-old could sit down and do a podcast about all the stupidity that our government and these crazy far leftists are running amok and doing to this country. It ain't hard. You know, I had people say, I wonder how Rush Limbaugh did 3 hours of radio. Folks, it ain't hard. They give you the material to work with. This is why I do my podcast, to inform people and to show people you're not alone out there in this fight. Because like I've said before, they're trying to get across to everyone that America is bad, that a majority of Americans think this country is evil and it needs to change. This country is not evil. There's nothing bad about the American flag or the American dream. It is very much alive and well. So that is the podcast, folks. I have run a little long here. Again, if you would like to chime in at any time, you can you can drop messages. You can go to my Facebook page. You can go onto Anchor. We're on Google Podcasts. We are on YouTube, Rumble, iHeartRadio. Drop us a line. Drop me a message, and it can be over anything. It doesn't have to be political. If you want to talk about something, if you would like me to air something and talk about it, please drop us some information. Leave me some sort of text, something, and I will get back to as many of you as I can and contact you. So, again, I want to thank everybody for watching my podcast. If you're on iHeartRadio and or Pocket Podcasts and you're listening to my podcast, I appreciate it. Please spread the word. I'd like to get up there in viewerships and people listening. And again, God bless America. I hope everyone had a very good 4th of July. And thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I am Charles Nash. This has been another episode of Political Theater. Thank you, folks, and good night.